Hello, my name is Ken Nakayama, and I'm going to share a few things about Mel Gary. Haverford College was mentioned. Haverford College is where I met Mel. He was a psychology student as myself. We ended up being psychology professors. And Haverford College attracted me because it was a Quaker school. Mel, as you heard, he was recruited there. It's a very special place to both of us. Over the years, many years past, we were fortunate to maintain our relationship intermittently over the last many decades, and we would, and many times Mel would say to me, after he graduated from Harvard, which is such a special place, he would say to me, recalling his life experience, did I have that experience before or after Haverford, like before or after Jesus? And it was a very special place to us, but at the same time, we were sort of odd ducks. He was African American, there were Negroes at the time, and I was a Japanese guy, and we had our own small circle of friends, but somehow he came back from the Salk Institute, and we ended up in the freshman dorm, and there's all these freshmen around here, and he was a junior, I think, at the time, and I was a sophomore, so somehow we sought each other out, and most of my relationship with him was in conversation, very long conversation over a period of 2 years, so I got to know him extremely well, and I realized what a fine person he was. He would a couple things we'd do together. He would try to get me dates at Bryn Mawr College. That was pretty unsuccessful, but he was in classes with me, and he was a modest guy, but he's not a pushover. He's a certain thing about Mel that you have to realize. He's a very intelligent and a man, a really of integrity. I'm revealing something about myself. One of my friends I've kept up with all these years, I never got an A in psychology up until my junior year, but one of my friends said to me, if you give yourself an A, the professor said you could give yourself your own grade. You had to justify it. And so and my friend said to me, we're going to give each other A minuses. Well, it was fine. Mel would have nothing of this. That's not the kind of guy Mel is. Mel is a straight, in those days, we called him a straight arrow, in the sense that Mel really had a sense of values that was sort of unwavering, and I sort of respect. I always felt over the years that he was a sort of a moral beacon, a voice of reason in social situations. When he was at Livingston College, I visited him here at Livingston College, and I could just see he was caught as a dean. It was really buffeted between all different kinds of forces in the 70s, and I just felt he had a really strong sense of values that was very, very admirable. And so I always looked up to him, and I really feel privileged to have kept up with him over the years. I'm just really struck by meeting Jeannie and Janot now. I just feel very, very fortunate to be here and to say what a wonderful man he was, and thank you very much.
I'm Dr. Janet Mahan Williams, and I am speaking a remembrance on behalf of Dr. Ernest Dunst, who is from Livingston College of Rutgers University, in memory and tribute to Mel Gary. Mel and I both came to Rutgers in 1969, eager and excited and perhaps a bit apprehensive about participating in the great academic experiment, Livingston College. Adjusting to the social situation at the time, Livingston was the attempt to combine a concern for correcting the social injustice that had proven to be a barrier, denying students of color the opportunity to attend the university with the goal of encouraging students to strive for academic excellence. As with any experiment, there were successes and failures, uncertainty, racial tension, and all of that was mixed in the very odd grading system at the time. In spite of all these things, and in part because of them, it was a very lively time. I remember those times, and I am sure Mel did, with deep appreciation for having been played a part of that electrifying drama. Early on, Mel and I bonded. He became not only a colleague, but a true friend and confidant. I could always depend on Mel to be a voice of calm and reason, a good interpreter of what was transpiring. In the role of a faculty member and as an administrator, students would readily seek his counsel, and he willingly made himself available to them. I guess in one sense, Mel and I bonded too well. The time would come when students, faculty members, friends, and acquaintances would have difficulty telling us apart physically. I would often kid him about the time some individuals would chide me for acting as though I did not know them. I would surmise instantly that they had encountered Mel. When I would try to explain, some of them would believe me, but most would not. On one occasion, Pat, my wife, and I came to a surprise party for Mel and Janelle. When we entered, everyone inside yelled, "Surprise!" I guess it was a good rehearsal for the time when they did come. There are friends that you do not see for a while, and relationships have to be reestablished. There was that in a brief period of awkwardness. The last time I visited Mel, we had not seen each other for 5.5 years. And yet it was as if we had seen each other just 2 days ago. 3 years later, he and Janelle came to celebrate my daughter's wedding, and it was the same. It saddens me to realize that we will never again meet face to face. But in the spirit that friends are in our hearts and in our ears, I would say that Mel, my dear friend, will always be in my heart and on my mind and in my speaking and in my hearing. Mel, it has been a pleasure to have known you, and I rejoice for all of the moments we shared on the journey. Ernie Dunn.
I'm going to have to remain tight to my script. So I'll be probably reading most of it because timekeepers frighten me. A few years before I retired, I created and offered a course on beliefs about the soul and its afterlife. It was an unusual course. I explored the history of afterlife beliefs, how beliefs are learned, how they function, the human capacity to fight over whose beliefs are correct, and a variety of other facets of that topic. Invariably, at the end of the course, a few students would ask me what I believed about the soul and its afterlife. I hemmed and hawed and pretty much didn't answer their questions. However, had I been asked if Mel Gary's soul would survive his death, my answer would have been, of course. The data was already in. When Mel retired in 2003, physically he disappeared from Rutgers, but his spirit remained. At the present time, Rutgers is one of the most diversified institutions on the face of the planet. I see that as one of the results of Mel's early commitments. When I hear about courses that address difficult problems in great depth, from expanded perspectives, I sense Mel's presence. He introduced a course titled Prejudice and Conflict. In the early days of Livingston College, it provided students with substance to think about and act upon for the remainder of their lives. As the only black member of the psychology faculty during the racially intense period during the late 60s and early 70s, he was under intense pressure from all sides to be more militant or more liberal or more conservative or more conciliatory or more demanding, to represent this side or that side of civil battles that were raging during that period of time. Surely these experiences helped shape his popular course titled Psychology of the Black Experience. It was a rigorous course with lots of reading materials that required students to think and write about their experiences and locate themselves in the broad historical context. Even more demanding was his graduate course on the topic of race, culture, and behavior. Students were taught how to think in Mel's courses, in all of his courses. Mel held students to high standards. Faculty who continue to do that remind me that Mel's spirit remains with us. He held himself to high standards. When Mel was teaching or advising students, he did a lot of that, or attending or more likely presiding over meetings, he did a lot of that as well. One had the distinct reassuring feeling that an adult was in the room. As the department's primary student advisor for several years, his intimate knowledge of all facets of the university enabled him to navigate students through the complexities of this place with great skill, unbending patience, and a hearty chuckle here and there. For me, Mel's unmatched chuckle was his primary trait. He even laughed at my stupid stories from time to time. And nobody was more committed to social justice than Mel. In that and many other regards, Mel's soul or spirit is with us today. It resides and continues to survive in the bones of the healthiest parts of Rutgers University. Thank you, Mel, and keep up the good work.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Loiseau, formerly known as Twist or Twistazio on this campus. I'm a former student here. I graduated in the year 2001. And Dr. Gary played a major role in me becoming the man that I am today. He'll be deeply missed. I'm very sorrowful that he's not here right now because we shared a similar upbringing in that, we were both very poor when we came up. And, I'm from Newark, New Jersey, and I was very urban at the time. I had braids. I wasn't balding back then. I didn't have a beard. I had graffiti on my backpack. I wore army fatigues, and I wore a Scully that used to go to the side. And Dr. Gary, he saw past all of that and saw the brilliant mind that, God gave me. And he challenged me to do the very best that I can. I met him through the Psychology of the Black Experience class that Dr. Ogilvy reflected on, and everything he said was true. It definitely made me a critical thinker. And he was actually the very first African-American professional in psychology that I met, and he greatly inspired me to further my education. I have my son here today because when I was a senior in college, the young woman that I was in love with, we became pregnant, let's put it like that. And I went to Dr. Gary, I said, "Charmaine's pregnant, Doc, I don't know what I'm gonna do." And he said to me, "What do you mean you don't know what you're gonna do?" I said, "Well, she's having a baby, we're gonna have the baby." And he said, "Well, you're going to graduate. That's what you're going to do. And we're going to come up with a plan. We're going to help you to finish school." And, he worked with Dr. Maurice Elias to help me to complete my bachelor's degree, and then introduced me to his wife at Kane University, where I completed my master's degree with a 4.0 GPA. I was supervised by another black psychologist named the late Dr. Gene Gatson, and took a big test, paid a lot of money to the state, and got my full licensure as a licensed professional counselor. Throughout those years, me and Dr. Gary would speak very often, and he was definitely a very brilliant man, very in tune to what was happening socially, and I'm very thankful to have had such a great person in my life that was so gracious unto me. May his soul rest in peace, and may God have mercy on his loved ones and family.
pardon me, I've been moving rather slowly in these declining years. My name is Dan Williams. I was the founding president of the New Jersey chapter of the Association of Black Psychologists, and I have a resolution from that body, from Mel. Life is a sum of your choices, and this is a quote from Camus, the prize-winning novelist, and this quote is vividly brought to life when I think about some of the wise choices made by Mel. There are other quotes, and the authors are anonymous, that I think also characterize Mel's commitment to life and to black psychology. One of the things that we say once in a while is life is made up of 10% problems and 90% of what you do about those problems. This last quote, I think, characterizes Mel's commitment to life and commitment to A.B. Science. And you say, if you do what you ought to do, there's never anything that you have to do. The Association of Black Psychologists, we now therefore resolve that in the death of Mel Gary, the New Jersey chapter of the Association of Black Psychologists, its officers, its members, and board of directors have suffered the loss of a wise elder and beloved colleague. We extend to the family our deepest sympathy and direct that a suitable engrossed copy of this resolution be presented to them, which we will do. The New Jersey chapter of the Association of Black Psychologists has lost one of its outstanding psychologists and leaders who played a major role in our development. Since the mid-'60s, Mel was an outstanding founder. He was the fourth president of the Association of Black Psychologists, and he worked tirelessly with us to accomplish our goals. During those years, Mel was at Livingston College, and Livingston College was found primarily as a place in those years for black and Latino students. Mel was very significant on the campus. He mentored a lot of students. Among those students that Mel mentored was the late Rick Taylor, former mayor of Plainfield, and Reverend Buster Soares, who you all know in this area, was a graduate student at Livingston. Mel's duties kept him quite busy. However, he always found time to help us in the Association of Black Psychologists. Mel died having the esteem, respect, and love of those who had occasions to come in direct contact with him, as well as the admiration and respect of those who knew him only by his deeds. In his passing, the New Jersey chapter of the Association of Black Psychologists lost his guiding hand and one whose standards and ideals were always of the highest order. We will miss his kind smile, his quiet and deliberate and well-considered counsel and advice. We feel it both proper that we introduce a resolution and have it become part of our records, and that we bond this in the appropriate frame and present it to the family. And the final, whereas Mel Gary, the fourth president of the New Jersey chapter of the Association of Black Psychologists, was an outstanding member, an outstanding founder, and he passed away on March 4th, 2015. It is hereby resolved that this resolution be entered upon the minutes of the New Jersey chapter of the Association of Black Psychologists, and that a copy be presented to the family of Dr. Mel Gary. Thank you.